Now the next image we want to bring in, we're going to be viewing from the other side. So if we hit the 3 key, you can see we're in the right orthographic view. Now we're going to want to be able to see the other image we bring in from the left orthographic view. And to get to that, you press Control numpad 3. So if I do that, problem is we can still see this, which means we aren't going to be able to see the next one we bring in. So what we want to do is only see this image from the front, but not from the back, so we can see to the other one. So if we select this and go over to our object data properties, we can change this here, this side setting. Currently, we've got it to show both the back and the front here in the 3D view. But if I choose only front, now if we tumble around, look at that. We can see through that now. So if we press Control numpad 3 now, we can see through it. And that's what we want. Okay, so now if I click out here and deselect it, I'll press Shift A, Image, and choose Reference once again. Now let's grab that other one. Let's take this one here, the right side, and let's bring this one in. There it is. And now we have to scale this down to get it to be the proper size. So over here in the outliner, let's bring back that reference wheelbase object. There it is, right there. And now let's select this image, hit the S key, and begin scaling this down to get it so it's the proper wheelbase for this one as well. So I'll hit the S key and move it down a little bit more, move it in the Y-axis, scale down a little more. There we go. So I think we've got that pretty well lined up there. And we'll be able to see with the other one how well we did. So with the image still selected, I'm going to once again turn on opacity so I can see through it to that Y-axis green line there and bring the tires down to sit on that there. Okay, I'll hide the wheelbase object. Now let's tumble around and see what we've got. So if I select this now, I can drag it back out like this. And now you can see we're going to be able to model the motorcycle in here in the middle while being able to see each of the sides. So if I hit the 3 key, we've got this one. And if I hit the Control 3 key, we've still got the same one, which means we have to set this one so we're only seeing it from the front, just like we did here. So come over to the side, click on front. Now we can't see this from the back, and we can't see this one from the back either. So now if I hit the 3 key, you can see this one here, and then press Control 3, and you can see that one there. So 3, Control 3. So we've got the two different sides of the motorcycle now in our 3D view, so we can use these as we work. All right, we've got two of them in. Now let's get the front and the back. So for the front, we're going to hit the 1 key for the front orthographic, and for the back, we'll hit Control 1 for the back orthographic view. So let's begin with the 1 key, and let's bring in the front image. Shift A, Image, and Reference. We'll select this one here, and we'll click Load Reference Image. Now, how are we going to figure out how big this should be without being able to see the wheelbase? Well, what we can do is use our images that we have in here currently to figure out how tall it should be, and then we'll use that object that tells us how tall it is to adjust this image here. So let's tumble around, and I'm going to pull this back a bit. And now, if we go to one of the side views, either the right or the left, I'm going to press Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Now I'm going to scale this down, and I want it to be just as tall as this is here. So to do that, I'm going to bring this down and put it right on that green line there, right on the Y-axis, right? And then I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'll hit the tab key. I'll hit the 3 key to go to face mode. And you can see up here we've got face select mode, edge select, and vertex select. And these can be accessed by pressing the 1, 2, or 3 keys on the keyboard here. 1, 2, and 3. So in face mode, I'll select this one face, hit the 3 key again, I'm going to turn on that move manipulator right here, and then I'm just going to drag up till it's about the same height as that headlight. So maybe if I do that, I'm going to tab into edit mode and move it over just a bit in the y-axis. And then so I can see through it, I'll hit the Z key and choose wireframe. There we go. So now you can see that's a little bit too tall, so I'll tab into edit mode, and that face is still selected there. I'll just bring that down so it's right at the top of that headlight. Now let's spin around to the other side and see if it's about the same. I'm going to press Control 3. And you can see here we're a little bit off, because if I bring this down to where that headlight is and then go back to the other side, you can see that's just a little bit off. And that's okay. This particular motorcycle could be just a different height, and that's okay, because over here, this curve is just above the handlebars, and over here, this curve of the headlight is just below the handlebars. So the actual location of the light, the heights of the handlebars may be slightly different from one specific motorcycle to the other. So I'm just going to leave this right about here. Not quite to the top, but not as far down as that other one. So maybe right about here. And then I'm going to select these different faces here and move this out to the end of this tire. And then I'll select this face over here and move this back to the very end of the fender here. So that right there is about how big the motorcycle is. I'll tab back into object mode, and then let's press Control 3 and spin around and see how we're doing here. So it looks like we might be able to actually scale this side up just a little bit. You see how it's not quite getting to this edge and not quite getting to this edge. So maybe we should just scale this up just a little bit. So this one is the one that's called empty right here. Let's change the name to right side. And then let's just hit the S key and scale it up just a little bit so it approaches the size of that one that we just did. I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it back in the y-axis just a smidge. There we go. So that's really a little more in line, I think. So something like that, I think, matches the other one pretty well. All right, so now if we tumble around, we've got this cube in the center, this 3D object, that's going to tell us how tall this image needs to be, right? So if we hit the 3 key, hit the 1 key, there we go. If we hit the 1 key, now we can see here's the box that we created, and now this image needs to be inside that box. Now this image is a little bit bright to see that box clearly, so I'm going to turn on opacity here. And then I'm going to take the opacity pretty far down. I'm going to just click and drag in here, drag the opacity down to say like around 0.25. I'll do that. Now we can take it and we can move it up or down. We can hit the S key and scale it down a bit. So maybe the size of that is around right in here. And this is not exactly taken from the front. This image isn't exactly from the front, but it's pretty good. It's not an exact orthographic view, but I think it'll work okay. And then maybe I'll take this image and move it over so it's kind of centered in the headlight here. All right, so I think that's a pretty good size for that. If I tumble around, there it is. Now I can take these and reduce the opacity for these as well, 0.25. Select this one, 0.25, here we go. And then let's quickly just bring in the rear image as well. Let me select this one and I'll call this front. And we'll turn on just the front so we can see through the back there. And then I'll hit Control 1. Here we are at the back. I'll press Shift A, image, reference. Let's bring in the back image here. And then we need to take the opacity, turn on opacity, take it down to 0.25. Then I need to scale it down so it's within that box that we created here. So this is the one right here, right? Yeah, so let's call this reference height. And so we'll select that new image right here. It's called empty, and we'll rename it back. And then we can move this up or down and try and get this about the right size. So it looks like I need to scale it up just a bit and then move it over into the center just a bit like this. There we go. And once again, these images aren't exactly in the front or the back, and they're not exactly orthographic views, but I think they will still be able to help us as we work. So I will tumble around, and let's take this one and move it back here, or I should say up here. So it's a little confusing, I know, because the back image is in the front and the front image is in the back, but we need to be able to see those through the motorcycle there. And this one, of course, we need to turn on only the front. There we go. So now we've got our images all the way around, and we can place them in more specific positions, and we'll do that in the next video. But that's how we get our reference images and our real-world scale set so we can begin our modeling.